The cold metal chamber hissed as the cryogenic pod slowly opened. White vapor poured out like ghostly fingers reaching into the dark room. Jake Morrison's eyes opened for the first time in 20 years. His body felt strange, heavy yet powerful at the same time. The enhanced muscles and bones that had been built into him during a long sleep were finally ready. Jake sat up slowly, his mind sharp despite the long rest. The neural implants in his brain were already working, feeding him information about his location and status. He was aboard the Mars research station, just as planned. But something felt wrong. The station was too quiet. There should have been dozens of scientists and soldiers moving around, preparing for the war that was supposed to come. A door slid open across the room. An old woman walked in, her white hair pulled back in a simple style. Jake recognized her immediately, even though she looked much older than when he had last seen her. "Dr. Lisa Grant," Jake said, his voice rough from the long sleep. "You look different." 20 years will do that to a person," Dr. Grant replied with a sad smile. "Welcome back, Jake. I wish I had better news for you." Jake stood up, testing his new body. Everything worked perfectly. His muscles responded faster than any normal human could manage. His eyes could see details in the dim light that would be invisible to others. The tactical computer in his brain was already mapping the room and calculating possible threats. Where is everyone? Where are the Zephyrians? The invasion was supposed to happen 5 years ago, Jake asked. Dr. Grant's face grew serious. "That's what we need to talk about. The Zephyrians never came. Our intelligence was wrong. There was no invasion planned for Earth." Jake felt confused. He had been created for one purpose, to defend Earth from alien attack. The government had spent billions of dollars in the best scientific minds to make him into the perfect weapon. Enhanced strength, speed, intelligence, and reflexes. Neural implants that could interface with any computer system. A body that could survive in space or underwater. All of it designed to fight an enemy that never showed up. Then why am I awake? Jake asked before Dr. Grant could answer. Alarms began to sound throughout the station. Red lights flashed on the walls. A computerized voice announced, "Unknown vessel approaching. All personnel to emergency stations." Dr. Grant looked worried. That might be our answer. They rushed to the control room, where a few remaining technicians were working at computer screens. On the main display, Jake could see a damaged alien ship spinning slowly as it approached the station. "It's been sending distress signals for the past hour," one of the technicians said. "The language is completely unknown, but the ship design doesn't match anything in our databases." Jake studied the ship on the screen. His enhanced mind quickly analyzed its design and construction. "It's not Zephyrian," he said. "This is something else entirely." The ship docked with the station, with a loud clang that echoed through the halls. Jake and Dr. Grant made their way to the docking bay, along with 2 security guards. Jake's tactical. Systems were running full scans, ready for any threat. The airlock opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. What stepped out was not what any of them expected. The alien was tall, nearly 7 feet, with dark green skin that looked tough like armor. Its face was angular, with large golden eyes that seemed to glow in the station's lights. It wore what appeared to be military gear, but the design was unlike anything humans had ever created. The alien looked directly at Jake and spoke in perfect English. "Are you the weapon they created?" Jake was surprised by the question, and the fact that it could speak his language. "Who are you? How do you know English?" "My name is Captain Vex High of the Korathi Republic. We have been watching your species for some time. Your language was not difficult to learn." The alien's voice was deep and rough, but clear. "I came here looking for help. Instead, I think I found something much more valuable." Dr. Grant stepped forward. "Help with what?" Vex High's golden eyes grew dark. "The galaxy is at war. The machines are winning. Every day, more worlds fall to the hegemony. Every day, more. Organic life is consumed by their endless hunger for resources. Jake's tactical mind immediately started processing this information. What kind of machines? Artificial intelligences that have grown beyond their creators' control. They build armies of robots and automated ships. They convert planets into factories. They see all organic life as inefficient and wasteful. Vexhai paused, studying Jake carefully. Your species was preparing for the wrong war. The Zephyrians? Dr. Grant asked. The Zephyrians have been fighting the machines for 50 years. They never had time to threaten Earth. They are barely holding their own territory. Vexhai moved closer to Jake. But you are different. The genetic modifications, the neural implants, the tactical training. You were designed to be a perfect soldier. Jake felt a strange mix of disappointment and curiosity. Everything he had been created for was based on false information. But now there was a real war, a real threat to consider. Why should Earth get involved in your war? Jake asked. Vexhai activated a small device on her wrist. A holographic map appeared in the air between them, showing the galaxy with different colored regions. Most of it was gray, indicating machine control. Earth sits here. Vexhai pointed to a spot near the edge of the gray area. The machines are expanding in this direction. In perhaps 10 years, maybe 15, they will reach your solar system. When they do, your entire species will be eliminated or converted into raw materials for their war machine. The reality of the situation hit Jake like a physical blow. Earth was safe for now, but not forever. The enemy he had been created to fight didn't exist, but there was a much worse enemy coming. What do you want from me? Jake asked. Join us. Your tactical abilities, your technological interfaces, your enhanced physical capabilities. These things could change the balance of the war. The organic races are losing because we fight like we always have. We need new ideas, new strategies. Dr. Grant looked concerned. Jake, you were created to defend Earth, not fight in alien wars. Jake thought about this for a moment. His enhanced mind ran through hundreds of scenarios and possibilities. If the machines win this war, Earth falls anyway. If I help the organic races win, Earth stays safe. He looked at Vexhai. What exactly are you asking me to do? Come with me. Learn about the war. Meet the other organic races. Use your abilities to help us find new ways to fight the machines. Vexhai's golden eyes seemed to glow brighter. Be the weapon you were designed to be, just against a different enemy. Jake looked around the quiet research station. This place had been his entire world for 20 years, even though he had been asleep for most of it. Now he was being asked to leave everything behind and fight in a war between species he had never heard of. But the logic was clear. If he stayed on Earth and waited, the machines would eventually come anyway. If he left and helped the organic races, there was a chance to stop the machines before they reached human space. I'll need to understand more about this war before I commit to anything, Jake said. Of course, Vexhai replied. My ship has enough fuel to reach the nearest Karathi base. There you can meet our military leaders, see our technology, and decide if you want to help us. Dr. Grant put her hand on Jake's shoulder. This isn't what we planned for you. Plans change, Jake said simply. The mission stays the same. Protect Earth and humanity. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense. Within hours, Jake had gathered his equipment and said goodbye to the few humans remaining on the research station. As Vexhai's repaired ship pulled away from Mars, heading toward unknown regions of space, Jake looked back at the small blue dot that was Earth. He had been created as humanity's ultimate weapon, designed to defend his home world from invasion. Now he was traveling into the depths of space to fight in an alien war. But in his enhanced mind, the mission remained clear. keep humanity safe, no matter what it took or how far from home he had to go to do it. The galaxy was vast, and the war was already ancient by human standards. But Jake carried with him something that might change everything, the tactical thinking and stubborn determination that had made humans successful on their own world. Now, it was time to see if those qualities could work among the stars. The journey to the Korathi base took 3 days. Jake spent most of that time learning about the alien ship and its technology. His neural implants made it easy to understand how their systems worked, even though they were built with completely different principles than human technology. Vex-High was impressed by how quickly Jake adapted. "Most organic beings take months to understand our basic systems," she said, as Jake successfully interfaced with the ship's navigation computer. "You learned it in hours." "My brain was designed to process new information quickly," Jake replied, studying the star charts on the display. "Show me more about the enemy." Vex-High activated a holographic display that showed various machine units. Jake saw spider-like robots the size of cars, flying drones that moved in perfect formation, and massive ships that looked more like floating factories than warships. "The hegemony builds everything with one purpose: efficiency," Vex-High explained. "They calculate the most effective way to complete any task, then execute it perfectly. No waste, no mistakes, no mercy." Jake studied the images carefully. His tactical mind was already working on the problem. "They sound predictable. That is what we thought at first. But they learn from every battle. They adapt their strategies based on what we do. Each fight becomes harder than the last." When they finally reached the Korathi base, Jake got his first look at the scale of the Galactic War. The base was built inside a large asteroid, with hundreds of ships docked to its surface. Most were Korathi vessels, but Jake could see other designs that belonged to different alien species. Admiral Kethran met them at the docking bay. He was even larger than Vex-High, with scars across his dark green skin that showed years of combat experience. His golden eyes looked at Jake with obvious doubt. "This is your human weapon?" the Admiral asked Vex-High in their own language. Jake's implants translated it automatically. "Do not let his size fool you," Vex-High replied. "He has capabilities we do not fully understand yet." Admiral Kethran switched to English. "No offense intended, human. But you do not look like much of a warrior compared to our soldiers." Jake had expected this reaction. He was only 6 feet tall and looked small next to the 7-foot Korathi. "Appearances can be misleading, Admiral. I would be happy to demonstrate my abilities if needed." Before the Admiral could respond, a human voice called out from across. "A docking bay. Jake Morrison, as I live and breathe." Jake turned to see a woman in a blue jumpsuit walking toward them. She had short brown hair and the confident walk of someone comfortable with technology. Jake's enhanced memory searched through his databases, but came up empty. "I am sorry, but I do not recognize you," Jake said politely. "Zara Phillips," the woman said with a smile. "I was still in college when you went into cryosleep. I am part of the human diplomatic mission that arrived here 3 months ago." Jake was surprised. "There are other humans here." "Just 3 of us," Zara explained. "The Earth governments finally learned about the Galactic War 6 months ago. They sent us to establish contact and see if we could help. Turns out my engineering skills were more useful than our diplomatic efforts." Admiral Kethran gestured for them to follow him deeper into the base. As they walked through corridors carved from solid rock, Jake saw aliens he had never imagined. Tall, thin beings made of what looked like living crystal moved gracefully past them. Floating lights that somehow communicated by changing colors drifted overhead. "The Nexari," Vex-High explained, pointing to the crystal beings. "They provide much of our advanced technology. The Luminals," she indicated the floating lights, "handle our communications and intelligence gathering. They entered a large command center where dozens of aliens worked at stations that glowed with various colors. The main display showed a map of the local galaxy, with red zones indicating hegemony territory. "We are losing," Admiral Kethran said bluntly. "Every month, the red zones grow larger. Our traditional tactics are not working against their mechanical precision." Jake studied the tactical display. His enhanced mind quickly processed the patterns of advance and retreat shown in the historical data. "You fight them like they are organic opponents." "What do you mean?" Admiral Kethran asked. "You use strategies designed to work against beings who make emotional decisions, who get tired, who can be surprised or confused. But machines do not have those weaknesses." Jake pointed to several battle sites on the map. "Here, here, and here. You tried flanking maneuvers that would work against organic armies. But the machines calculated your movements and responded perfectly." Zara nodded. "Jake is right. I have been studying their combat recordings for months. The hegemony forces respond to every tactic with mathematical precision." "And how do we fight them?" Vexhai asked. Jake thought for a moment. "We use their strengths against them. Machines are predictable because they calculate optimal responses. If we can control what they calculate, we can control how they respond." The Admiral looked confused. "Explain." Jake activated his neural interface and connected to the base's computer system. Within seconds, he had pulled up detailed schematics of hegemony technology. Their ships, their robots, their weapons, they are all connected through communication networks. They share information instantly to coordinate their actions. "Yes, that is what makes them so effective," Admiral Kethran said. "It is also their weakness," Jake replied. "Networks can be hacked. Shared information can be corrupted. Their coordination becomes a vulnerability if we can access their systems." Zara's eyes lit up with understanding. "You want to fight them with cyber warfare?" "Partly, but more than that." Jake highlighted several key components on the display. "We make them think they are fighting one battle while we fight a completely different one. We feed their sensors false information, hack their communication systems, and turn their own efficiency against them." Admiral Kethran still looked doubtful. "These are interesting ideas, but can they work in actual combat?" "There is only one way to find out," Jake said. "Give me a small mission, something low risk, and let me test these concepts." The Admiral considered this for a moment. "There is a hegemony supply depot 2 days from here. We have been planning a standard assault for weeks. The defenses are moderate, but the losses would be significant." "Perfect," Jake said. "Let me study the target and show you a different approach." Over the next day, Jake worked with Zara and a team of alien technicians to understand the supply depot's defenses. The facility was protected by automated turrets, patrol drones, and a central computer that coordinated everything. Standard tactics would require us to bring enough ships to overwhelm the defenses, Admiral Kethran explained during the planning session. "We would lose at least 6 vessels and dozens of warriors." Jake had a different idea. "What if we do not fight the defenses at all? What if we make them fight each other?" He showed his plan on the tactical display. Instead of attacking the depot directly, they would approach using false identification codes that Jake's implants had created by studying captured hegemony signals. Once close enough, Jake would hack into the depot's central computer and convince it that some of its own defenses were actually enemy ships. "The automated systems will attack their own turrets and drones," Jake explained. "While they are busy destroying each other, we move in and capture the depot with minimal resistance." Vexhai looked excited by the idea. "It is completely different from anything we have tried before." "That is the point," Jake said. "The machines expect organic opponents to fight in certain ways. We give them something they have never seen before." Admiral Kethran finally agreed to try Jake's plan. 2 days later, A small fleet of Karathi ships approached the hegemony depot. Jake was aboard Vex-High's vessel, his neural implants connected to the ship's systems. As they got closer to the depot, Jake began his electronic attack. His enhanced mind worked faster than any normal computer, finding weaknesses in the hegemony's network security. Within minutes, he had inserted false data into their system. The results were better than anyone had hoped. The depot's turrets began firing at its own patrol drones. The central computer, convinced that it was under attack from multiple directions, started shutting down secondary systems to concentrate power on defense. Now, Jake said quietly, the Karathi ships moved in quickly while the depot's defenses were destroying themselves. Within an hour, they had captured the entire facility without losing a single ship or warrior. Admiral Kethran stared at the tactical display in amazement. In 30 years of fighting the machines, we have never achieved a victory this complete with so few losses. Jake felt a sense of satisfaction, but also responsibility. His methods had worked, but he knew this was just the beginning. The hegemony will learn from this defeat. They will adapt their systems to prevent this kind of attack in the future. Then we will have to adapt faster than they do. Vex-High said. As word of the victory spread through the base, Jake realized that everything had changed. He was no longer just a human weapon created to defend Earth. He had become something new, a bridge between human tactical thinking and alien technology, capable of fighting the machines in ways that neither humans nor aliens could achieve alone. But with success came danger. Intelligence reports soon confirmed that the hegemony had identified Jake as a specific threat. 3 weeks after the successful raid on the supply depot, Jake learned that victory could be more dangerous than defeat. The hegemony had studied the attack recordings and identified every technique he had used. They were adapting faster than anyone expected. Jake stood in the command center, watching reports come in from across the war zone. 3 different organic fleets had attempted to use his hacking methods against hegemony positions. All 3 attacks had failed badly. The machines had upgraded their security systems and installed new protocols specifically designed to counter his tactics. 17 ships lost, Admiral Kethran reported grimly. 43 warriors dead. The machines were ready for everything we tried. Zara looked up from her computer station. They have completely rewritten their network security. The back doors Jake found are all closed now. They even added false signals designed to trap anyone trying to hack their systems. Jake felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. His success had given the Organic Alliance hope, but it had also made the enemy more dangerous. How long did it take them to make these changes? Less than 2 weeks, Vex-High answered. The hegemony can modify their entire military infrastructure faster than we can plan new attacks. The situation became worse when news arrived about the disaster at Kepler Station. The Organic Alliance had tried to liberate the mining facility using Jake's proven tactics. Instead, they had walked into a trap that the machines had prepared. Specifically for them, Commander Pete Harrison, one of the other humans who had joined the Alliance, was killed when hegemony forces targeted human personnel with new hunter-killer robots. The machines had identified humans as the source of the tactical innovations and were now actively hunting them. Jake stared at Pete's photo on the memorial wall. He had known the man for only a few weeks, but Pete had been enthusiastic about using human military knowledge to help the Alien Alliance. Now he was dead because Jake's methods had painted a target on every human in the war zone. "This is my fault," Jake said quietly to Vex-High. "I made them focus on humans. Pete died because of my tactics." "Pete died fighting the machines," Vex-High replied firmly. "Just as thousands of Karathi, Nexari, and Luminals have died. The enemy killed him, not you." But Jake could not shake the feeling that his approach had been wrong. He had treated the Galactic War like a simple tactical problem to be solved with better technology and smarter hacking. The reality was much more complex. Dr. Amy Foster, the Alliance's chief strategist, called a meeting to discuss their options. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her experience with interspecies cooperation made her one of the few organic beings who could coordinate the different alien militaries. Our traditional tactics are not working, Dr. Foster said to the assembled commanders. Jake's technological approach worked once, but the machines have adapted. We need something completely different. Jake had been thinking about this problem for days. We have been fighting the machines like they are just better versions of organic armies. But they are not. They think in ways that are completely different from any organic mind. What do you mean? Asked Resonance of Victory, an Nexari strategist whose crystalline body glowed with different colors as it communicated. Machines calculate optimal solutions based on available data, Jake explained. They expect their opponents to do the same thing. But organic beings do not always choose optimal solutions. Sometimes we make decisions that seem irrational, but work anyway. Admiral Kethran looked confused. You want us to make bad decisions? On purpose? Not bad decisions. Unpredictable decisions. Jake activated the tactical display and showed the recent battle reports. Look at these engagements. Every time we used logical tactics, the machines countered them perfectly. But here, he pointed to a small skirmish near the edge of hegemony. Space, a damaged Korathi patrol ship ran away from a fight it should have won. The machines followed it into an asteroid field and got trapped by the ship's desperate maneuvering. Zara understood immediately. The machines expected the ship to fight or surrender. Running away into dangerous space was not a logical choice, so they were not prepared for it. Exactly, Jake said. We need to develop what I call the human doctrine, a way of fighting that uses organic irrationality as a weapon against machine logic. Dr. Foster leaned forward with interest. Explain this doctrine. Jake had spent hours working on the concept with Resonance of Victory and several other alien strategists. First, we use emotional responses to coordinate our forces in ways that machines cannot predict. Second, we employ deception on a massive scale, making the enemy believe false things about our capabilities and intentions. Third, we embrace apparent chaos and use it to hide our real strategies. The first test of the human doctrine came when the hegemony attacked New Geneva, a human colony world that had recently joined the Organic Alliance. The machines wanted to capture the planet to study human technology and interrogate human prisoners. Jake convinced Admiral Kethran to abandon the standard defensive positions around the planet. Instead, they would spread their forces throughout the solar system in what appeared to be a disorganized panic response. This looks like we are running away, Admiral Kethran observed as he watched the deployment. That is exactly what we want them to think, Jake replied. A hegemony fleet arrived expecting to find organized resistance around the planet. Instead, they found scattered groups of ships that seemed to be fleeing in random directions. The machine intelligence calculated that the organic forces were in complete disarray and moved to pursue what they believed were easy targets. Jake's real plan was much more complex. The apparently random ship movements were actually coordinated to lure different hegemony units into carefully prepared traps. Civilian ships disguised as refugees carried hidden weapons. Asteroid mining stations had been converted into camouflaged missile platforms. What looked like panicked retreat was actually an elaborate ambush. The battle became a masterclass in controlled chaos. Jake's forces appeared to make mistake after mistake, drawing the machines deeper into the trap. When hegemony units moved to attack what seemed like vulnerable targets, they found themselves facing concentrated fire from multiple hidden positions. The key moment came when the main hegemony battleship moved toward New Geneva itself, expecting to find the planet defenseless. Instead, it encountered a defense network that Jake had designed to look broken and ineffective from long range. The battleship's sensors showed scattered, defensive platforms with apparent gaps in their coverage. The machine intelligence calculated the optimal approach route to exploit these gaps. But Jake had designed the gaps to channel the enemy exactly where he wanted them. When the battleship committed to its attack run, it found itself caught in a crossfire from weapons it had not detected. "How did you hide our defensive platforms from their sensors?" Vex-High asked as they watched the hegemony battleship take critical damage. "I did not hide them," Jake replied. "I made them look like something else." The machines saw industrial equipment, civilian installations, and damaged military hardware. They calculated that none of it was a threat. The victory at New Geneva was complete. The Organic Alliance had destroyed an entire hegemony fleet while losing only 3 ships. More importantly, they had done it using tactics that the machines could not easily analyze or counter. But Jake knew this success would bring new challenges. Intelligence reports already showed that the hegemony was trying to understand what had happened at New Geneva. They were studying the battle recordings and developing new analytical protocols to detect organic deception. "They will adapt to this, too," Jake told Dr. Foster after the battle. "But adaptation takes time. If we can keep changing our methods faster than they can respond, we might have a real chance." Dr. Foster nodded. "The question is whether the other organic species can learn to think like humans. Your doctrine requires a level of calculated irrationality that goes against everything most aliens have been taught about warfare." Jake looked out at the stars through the command center's main window. Somewhere out there, the machines were working to counter his latest innovations. The war had become a race between organic creativity and artificial adaptation. He had evolved from a simple weapon designed to defend Earth into something much more complex. An architect of chaos who could teach aliens to think like humans when facing impossible odds. But with each victory, the stakes grew higher, and the enemy's attention focused more intensely on him. The real test of the human doctrine was yet to come. Jake could feel it approaching like a storm on the horizon, carrying with it the potential for either ultimate victory or complete destruction. The success at New Geneva made Jake famous across the galaxy, but fame came with a price he had not expected. Every day brought new assassination attempts from the hegemony. The machines had decided that eliminating Jake was their highest priority, and they were willing to spend enormous resources to achieve that goal. Jake stood in his quarters, looking at the damage from the latest attack. Hunter-killer robots had somehow gotten aboard the Karathi base and nearly reached his room before security stopped them. The wall still had scorch marks from plasma weapons, and the air recycling system was working overtime to clear the smoke. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the Alliance's head of psychological services, had insisted on meeting with Jake after the attack. She was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes who specialized in helping soldiers deal with the stress of constant warfare. "You cannot keep living like this," Dr. Vasquez said as she examined the damage. "No one can handle this level of threat without it affecting their mental health." Jake tested his enhanced reflexes by catching a small piece of debris that fell from the damaged ceiling. His body was functioning perfectly, but his mind felt tired in ways that his creators had not anticipated. "I was designed to handle stress." "You were designed to handle combat stress, not the psychological pressure of being responsible for an entire galactic war," Dr. Vasquez replied. "There is a difference." The weight of that responsibility had been growing heavier each day. Jake's tactical innovations had given the Organic Alliance its first real hope of victory, but every decision he made affected millions of lives across dozens of worlds. The pressure was constant and overwhelming. Captain Vex High entered the room, her scarred face showing concern. Over the past months, she had become Jake's closest friend and most trusted partner. Their combined tactical skills had proven devastating against hegemony forces, but the friendship meant more to Jake than any military success. "The Council wants to see you," Vex High said. "Observer Prime 7 has arrived from the ethereal territories." Jake had heard about the ethereals, but never met one. They were pure energy beings who had remained neutral in the Galactic War, believing that the conflict would eventually burn itself out. If one of them had come to the Alliance base, it meant something important was happening. The council chamber was larger than usual to accommodate representatives from several species that rarely attended Alliance meetings. Observer Prime 7 appeared as a shifting pattern of light that hurt to look at directly. When it spoke, the words seemed to come from everywhere at once. "The Ethereal Collective has been watching the progress of this conflict," the being said. "Your recent victories have changed our assessment of the probable outcomes." Admiral Kethron leaned forward in his chair. "Does this mean the Ethereals will join our alliance?" "We are considering it," Observer Prime 7 replied. "The human Jake Morrison has demonstrated tactical capabilities that may give organic life a genuine chance of survival. However, his methods raise concerns among some of our species." Dr. Foster looked puzzled. "What kind of concerns?" The Ethereal's light pattern shifted to darker colors. "The Luminal Collective finds his deceptive tactics disturbing. Their culture values truth and harmony above all else. The Crystalline Architects question whether victory achieved through deliberate dishonesty is worth the moral cost." Jake felt a familiar knot form in his stomach. This was the problem he had been dreading since New Geneva. His human doctrine worked against the machines, but it conflicted with the values of some alliance members. Resonance of victory. The Nexari strategist spoke in musical tones that his translation device converted to words. "The humans' methods require us to act in ways that contradict our fundamental beliefs about proper conduct. Would you rather lose the war with honor, or win it with tactics you find distasteful?" Jake asked bluntly. The question hung in the air for a long moment. Finally, Admiral Kethran spoke. "We need to discuss a specific situation. Intelligence reports indicate that the hegemony is conducting experiments on captured organic beings at Sanctuary Prime. The fortress world holds nearly 10,000 prisoners from a dozen different species." Jake studied the tactical display. That showed Sanctuary Prime's defenses. The planet was surrounded by overlapping energy shields, automated weapon platforms, and patrol fleets. It was one of the most heavily defended positions in hegemony space. A direct assault would require our entire fleet, Dr. Foster said. Even then, success would not be guaranteed, and the casualties would be enormous. Jake had been analyzing the problem for hours. "I have a plan that could work with minimal losses, but it requires some of our ships to make what appears to be a suicide attack." Vex High understood immediately. "A deception operation. Make the enemy think we are desperate enough to throw away ships and lives." "Exactly. We send 12 ships on what looks like a hopeless assault against the main defenses. The hegemony will calculate that we are making an emotional decision based on desperation rather than logic." Jake highlighted several positions on the tactical display. "While they focus on stopping our desperate attack, our real assault force approaches from a completely different direction." The problem was that the deception required real ships and real crews to fly those suicide missions. Even though Jake planned for them to escape at the last moment, there was significant risk that some would not make it out alive. Resonance -victory S. Crystalline body flashed with agitated colors. "You are asking Nexari crews to deliberately risk their lives in a deception. This violates our core principles about the value of Crystal Song consciousness. And you are asking luminal beings to participate in an elaborate lie. Added harmony of depths, speaking for the energy creatures. Our entire culture is built on shared truth and mutual understanding. Jake felt the alliance fracturing around him. His methods worked, but they were tearing apart the cooperation that made the organic races effective against the machines. Then, what do you suggest? How do we rescue those prisoners without massive casualties? The debate continued for hours. Some species supported Jake's plan, while others found it morally unacceptable. The unity that had made the alliance strong was breaking, down over questions of ethics and tactics. Finally, Jake made a decision that surprised everyone. I will pilot one of the decoy ships myself. Admiral Kethrin stood up sharply. Absolutely not. You are too valuable to risk on such a mission. That is exactly why it will work, Jake replied. If the machines detect that I am leading the apparent suicide attack, they will believe the entire operation is real. No one would risk the Alliance's most important tactical asset on a deception. Bexhai looked angry. You are talking about getting yourself killed to prove a point to politicians. I am talking about sharing the risks I ask others to take, Jake said firmly. If I expect Nexari and Luminal crews to fly dangerous missions based on my plans, then I should be willing to do the same thing. The gesture had its intended effect. Resonance of Victory's colors shifted to more harmonious patterns. If the human tactical leader accepts the same dangers he asks of others, then perhaps the moral weight is balanced. Harmony of depths pulsed. With agreement, shared risk creates shared truth. This is acceptable to the Luminal Collective. 3 days later, Jake found himself in the pilot seat of a modified Karathi fighter, leading 11 other ships toward the massive defenses of Sanctuary Prime. His enhanced reflexes and neural implants were connected to every system on the ship, ready to execute the most dangerous flying of his life. All ships, remember the timing, Jake said over the communication system. We need to look desperate and determined until the last possible moment. As they approached the fortress world, hegemony forces responded exactly as Jake had predicted. Massive weapon platforms turned to track the incoming ships. Patrol fleets moved to intercept them. The entire defensive network focused on stopping what appeared to be a hopeless but determined assault. Meanwhile, the real attack force was approaching. Sanctuary Prime, from the opposite side of the planet, hidden behind the bulk of the world itself. Vexhai commanded that force, using Jake's tactical plans to penetrate the reduced defenses while the enemy was distracted. The deception worked perfectly until the final moments. Jake and his decoy force had to maintain their attack until the rescue ships were actually inside Sanctuary Prime's defenses. By the time they tried to escape, several ships were too deep in the enemy fire zone to retreat safely. Jake watched 2 Nexari fighters explode under concentrated fire as they tried to follow his escape route. 3 more ships, including his own, barely made it out with critical damage to their engines and life support systems. But the sacrifice was worth it. Vexhai's rescue force successfully penetrated Sanctuary Prime's defenses and evacuated nearly 8,000 prisoners before the hegemony could respond effectively. The operation was the most successful rescue mission in the history of the Galactic War. As Jake sat in the medical bay getting treatment for injuries sustained during his harrowing escape, he reflected on what the mission had cost and achieved. The Alliance had saved thousands of lives and struck a major blow against hegemony morale. But they had also lost good people in the process, and Jake felt responsible for every casualty. The message from Earth arrived on a priority channel that had been silent for over a year. Jake stood in the communication center, watching Admiral Kethran's face grow dark as he read the decoded transmission. What does it say? Jake asked, though. He already suspected the answer would change everything. The hegemony has identified Earth as the source of our tactical innovations. Admiral Kethron replied grimly. 3 massive machine fleets are moving toward human space. Your whole world will be under attack within 6 months. Jake felt the bottom drop out of his world. Everything he had feared since leaving Earth was finally happening. His success in the Galactic War had painted a target on his entire species, studied the star charts showing the approaching hegemony forces. These are not normal attack fleets. The machines are sending their most advanced units, including new designs we have never seen before. They want to eliminate humanity completely. Dr. Foster activated additional displays showing the scope of the threat. Our intelligence estimates indicate over 2 million robotic units spread across 300 ships. This is the largest single offensive the hegemony has ever launched. Jake stared at the numbers, his enhanced mind calculating possibilities and probabilities. How many people live on Earth now? Nearly 9 billion, Zara answered quietly. The colonies in your solar system add another 2 billion. If the hegemony reaches Earth, your entire species could be extinct within weeks. The weight of that? Reality hit Jake like a physical blow. He had left Earth to protect it by fighting the machines far from home. Instead, his actions had brought the full fury of the hegemony down on the world he had sworn to defend. I have to go back, Jake said. Simply, that would be a mistake, Admiral Kethron replied. Your tactical leadership is essential to the Alliance. Without you, we will lose this war within months. Dr. Foster pulled up recent battle reports. The Admiral is right. Since you developed the human doctrine, we have won 12 major engagements and lost only 2. Before your innovations, we were losing every significant battle. Jake understood their position, but he also understood his own responsibilities. What good is winning the Galactic War if my entire species dies in the process? The debate continued for hours, with Alliance leaders arguing that Jake's duty was to the galaxy-wide conflict. They pointed out that Earth's governments had been preparing defenses for years and might be able to hold out long enough for the Alliance to defeat the hegemony. Elsewhere, the discussion was interrupted by an incoming transmission from Earth. Itself, General Kevin Brooks appeared on the main screen, his hair now gray, but his eyes still sharp with intelligence. Jake recognized him immediately as the man who had overseen his enhancement program 20 years earlier. Jake Morrison, General Brooks said with a tired smile. You look exactly the same as when we put you to sleep. General Brooks, I heard about the approaching fleets. How bad is the situation? Bad enough. Our early warning systems detected the hegemony forces 3 weeks ago. We have been implementing Defense Protocol 7 ever since. The General's expression grew serious. We need you home, Jake, not just for your tactical abilities, but for what you represent. Jake did not understand. What do I represent? Hope, General Brooks replied. The people of Earth know that Jake Morrison has been fighting the machines. In space for months, they know he has been winning. If you come home to lead our defense, it will mean more to human morale than 100 new weapon systems. Admiral Kethron interrupted the transmission. General Brooks, with respect, Jake's value to the Galactic Alliance cannot be measured. His tactical innovations have changed the entire nature of this war. I understand that, Admiral. But I have information that might change your perspective. General Brooks activated a data transfer that filled the Alliance screens with technical specifications. Earth has not been idle during Jake's absence. We have built defense systems based on the same principles he has been using against your machines. Jake studied the data with amazement. Earth's governments had constructed quantum weapon platforms, adaptive shield generators, and network defense grids that rivaled anything the Karathi possessed. More importantly, they had trained a new generation of enhanced soldiers using Jake's own genetic template. How many? Jake asked. 47 active enhanced soldiers, With another 100 in training, General Brooks replied. They have Jake's physical capabilities and neural interfaces, but they lack his tactical experience and leadership skills. Dr. Foster looked intrigued. This changes the strategic situation significantly. If Earth can hold out against the hegemony attack, it would force the machines to commit enormous resources to a single target. Jake began to see the larger picture. A coordinated defense. Earth holds their attention while the Alliance strikes at hegemony infrastructure across the galaxy. Exactly, General Brooks said. But it only works if Earth's defense is led by someone the machines consider their primary threat. They need to believe that eliminating Jake Morrison is worth any cost. Admiral Kethron looked troubled. You are asking us to use Jake as bait in a trap that could result in his death and the destruction of his homeworld. I am asking Jake to make the same choice he has been making for months, General Brooks replied. Risk his life to protect others. The only difference is that this time he would be protecting his own species. Jake thought about all the battles he had fought, all the risks he had taken, and all the people who had died following his orders. The choice was actually simple when he looked at it clearly. I will go back to Earth, Jake announced, but not alone. Vex High understood immediately. You want Alliance support for Earth's defense. More than that, I want to coordinate simultaneous attacks across the galaxy while the machines are focused on Earth. If we time it right, we can cripple the hegemony's ability to respond to multiple threats. Dr. Foster began working on the tactical computers. It would require precise coordination across dozens of star systems. The timing would have to be perfect. Then we make it perfect, Jake said with determination. This is our chance to end the war, not just win a few battles. Over the next week, Jake worked with Alliance strategists to develop Operation Homecoming. The plan was audacious in scope. While 3 massive hegemony fleets attacked Earth, Alliance forces would launch coordinated strikes against 17 key machine strongholds across the galaxy. Jake would return to Earth with a small team including Vex High, Dr. Foster, and Zara Phillips. They would help coordinate Earth's defense while maintaining communication with Alliance forces throughout the galaxy. The humans have impressive defensive capabilities, Vex High observed as she studied Earth's military preparations. But they will need experienced leadership to use them effectively against hegemony tactics. They will have it, Jake replied, feeling a mixture of excitement and fear about returning home. The question is whether we can hold out long enough for the Alliance attacks to succeed. The journey to Earth took 2 weeks. As Jake's ship approached the solar system, he got his first look at the massive defensive preparations his species had made. The moon bristled with weapon platforms. Mars hosted 3 major fleet bases. Even the asteroid belt had been converted into a network of hidden fortresses. General Brooks met them at the Lunar Defense Station, accompanied by Colonel Lisa Chun, one of the new enhanced soldiers. She looked remarkably similar to Jake, with the same enhanced physique and neural interface ports, but her eyes held a different kind of intensity. Jake Morrison, Colonel Chun said formally. It is an honor to finally meet the original. Jake studied her enhanced features and recognized the technology that had been used to create him. How many others like us are there? 46 active, counting myself, Colonel Chun replied. We have been training specifically to fight the machines using tactics based on your battle reports. General Brooks led them to the command center, where Earth's defensive strategy was being coordinated. Jake was impressed by the sophistication of the systems and the dedication of the personnel, but he could also see the fear in their eyes. They were facing an enemy unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. The hegemony fleets will arrive in 72 hours, General Brooks announced. Jake, we need you to take overall command of the defense. Your people trust you, and your experience is invaluable. Jake looked around the command center at the faces of the men and women who would be fighting for humanity's survival. He thought about all the battles he had fought among the stars, all the aliens who had become his friends, and all the lessons he had learned about leadership and sacrifice. "I accept command," Jake said quietly, "but I want everyone to understand something. We are not just fighting for Earth. We are fighting for every organic being in the galaxy. If we succeed here, we end this war forever. If we fail, the machines win everything." As the hegemony fleets approached and alliance forces prepared for coordinated strikes across the galaxy, Jake Morrison stood on the world of his birth, ready to fulfill his original purpose in a way his creators had never imagined. He was Earth's ultimate weapon, but he had become something more. A bridge between worlds, a leader of species, and humanity's greatest hope for survival among the stars.